Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week beginning the 29th of December as we bring the celestial curtain down on year 2025 and welcome in the new year. I'm going to share with you first of all some of the standout themes of this week, then on screen the event chart right at the top of the week, which always provides an influential backdrop for the following 7 days. I'll then go through each of the influences in detail, and then I'll share with you each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun, or the moon. I hope you had a great Christmas and wishing you all the very best for the new year. All your views, interactions, likes and comments are truly appreciated. If you've yet to sub, please do so now. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that have played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. So as we enter into this week, wow, the collective in the sign of Capricorn is very dominant. And it's seeing Mars and Venus very close to the Sun. In fact, the three of them are going to be shadowing each other right through to the middle of December. Now, Capricorn is very much to do with the orthodox. It can be to do with our goals and ambitions. It can also be to do with more established ways that things are done, but it's very much about the material plane. And those three are going to be joined by Mercury on the 1st of January. But Mercury is going to be challenged by Saturn initially and also Neptune right at the end of the year. So as we go into this new year with Mercury in Sagittarius, where it's in detriment, it's important to understand that when it comes to information or knowledge or travel, that there could be some unforeseen glitches towards the end of this week. But Mercury moving into Capricorn is a place where Mercury is very comfortable. It's very much about business, commerce, and moving in to join up with the three players of the Sun, Mars and Venus is definitely something that can focus our thinking on ambition. But we are going to see Chiron come to the end of its retrograde, which began in July on the 2nd, on Friday. But also we're going to see on Saturday the full moon in the sign of Cancer. The moon in Cancer is, of course, ruled by that sign, so she's at home, but we're really being asked in the first 2 weeks of this new year to make sure that our work-life balance is well attuned. So on the screen now I'm showing the event chart, and you can see that Mercury there at 2406 is in a square with Saturn. Saturn and Neptune in that 12th house could just see something come into the open that's been hidden. It may be something we've been reluctant to look at, but Mercury of course can be about the conversation, the discussion, and in Sagittarius it can be about higher knowledge, education, but also travel, international situations. But if you're holidaying and heading off somewhere, just be aware of that Saturn-Neptune square, and important to make sure that nothing's been overlooked. You can see the moon, however, is in the sign of Aries, and it is in a conjunction with Chiron. So as we come to the end of 1 year, we're really being asked to consider if there is something around our personal identity that's a little bit out of kilter still, despite Chiron about to go direct on the 2nd. And you can see the moon and also Chiron are in a square with Jupiter. I think what that's essentially saying to us as we come into this week, as much as we may set our sights high with all that Capricornian energy, I don't feel we should overgild the lily when it comes to our personal ambitions. We need to stay in touch with our true selves, be authentic, and also understand the importance of the emotional dimension. And of course, that's what's going to be really emphasized by that full moon on Saturday in Cancer. But it is also a moon that's opposite Mars, and that can be quite a turbulent opposition and can create quite a lot of intensity. So if we encounter someone, for example, who's quite dominating, set in their ways, perhaps a little bit old-fashioned, but not really in tune with how things feel, that could be something that's rather triggering through the first 2 weeks of this new year. So as much as that gathering of energy in Capricorn, which will be emphasised more by the arrival of Mercury later on the 1st, can be good to set our sights high, we need to retain our humanity, but we may also encounter someone who isn't perhaps so in touch with that more emotional sphere. I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, but do check out your year 2026 deep dive forecast for each of the signs by clicking on the link beneath this video. From Aries to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 29th of December. I hope you had a great Christmas and wishing you all the very best for 2026. As you come into this week, Aries, your ruler Mars is in the most dominant and prominent part of your chart in the sign of Capricorn, but Mars loves being in the sign of Capricorn. He's exalted, and if ever there was a chance for you to show your natural leadership skills, it's certainly as we come to the end of this year and as we enter the new one. But if we think of the big picture and go back to Pluto's presence through this part of your chart from 2008 through to November 2014, apart from 2 brief visits to Aquarius towards the end of that period, Pluto may have seen some big transformations around your career, your working life. Perhaps you started your own enterprise. If you work for a big organisation, you may have seen a lot of changes going on. Where has that left you? Because as this year comes to a close and the new one begins, if you are someone with a very clear set of objectives for the new year, I actually feel you can thrust into 2026 with an enormous amount of determination, passion, flair with Venus's help, but also commercial nous with Mercury joining up with them on the 1st. What's not to like? Well, if there is anything that is still active from the past and it has in some ways debilitated you, it may be a lack of confidence, it may be a lack of certainty about what you've wanted to do, it may be the hurt over a relationship that didn't work out. If there's something at a more internal level that's deflecting you from the big aims that you want to pursue, it could show up initially as we go into this new year. However, as we come into this new week, Chiron and the moon are very close together. In a natal chart, that's one of the most delicate aspects you can possibly have, and they are in a square with Jupiter. If there is a part of you that wants to, in a way, be very self-confident, or if you like, strut your stuff, fake it to make it, that is a good thing to a degree. I feel some vulnerabilities may be showing up that are competing with those more ambitious, self-assured and assertive energies that are going on in Capricorn. And I don't feel that you should try to ignore them. So if there's something that you're not quite sure about how you're going to manifest your personal energies, skills and talents, just give yourself a little bit of time to work into the new year, because as January goes on, I think things will become clearer, and I think it may be around your alliances with others that actually can help you to achieve some goals. But as this week draws to a close, we do have that full moon. It's a full moon which could bring some tender issues into play. Particularly if you're a parent, maybe if you're thinking about some property issues, maybe if it's dealing with older folks in your family who may need your support. There could be some deflection from some of the things that you really want to go for. I hope you have a very lovely New Year's celebration. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Taurus, your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the very best for year 2026. As you come into this new week, the moon is in the part of your situation along with Chiron, which is actually quite delicate. On the screen now, I'm showing your event chart. You can see that Chiron and the moon together in the 12th house could bring up some sensitive strands. They're also in a square with Jupiter, the planet of fortune, which is in a chatty part of your scope. There may be a conversation at the start of this week which does leave you feeling a little uncertain. But as we make our way into the new year, Mercury is going to be leaving the sign of Sagittarius, but for you it starts the week in the part of your chart that's very much to do with long-term financial planning, and it's in a hard square with Saturn and Neptune. You're going to need to make sure, if you have got a big plan or idea for 26, that it's really well researched. But Mercury does move later on the 1st into your fellow Earth sign of Capricorn, joining up with your ruler Venus, also the Sun and Mars. And I think it would be highly likely that by the middle of January you will have travelled somewhere. If you're not able to physically travel, you could expand your interest in a very exciting way. It may be signing up for a course. Maybe it's going to be around learning a foreign language. Perhaps you're going to book somewhere for a vacation later in 2026, but it may be somewhere that's a bit different, that has a bit more of a historical dimension to it, somewhere that really helps you to expand your world view. But also, with that collective together, there is a sense that as you make your way into 2026, that if something you have at the moment isn't working for you, you're going to be in the mood to change things up. We all know that old saying of a change is as good as a rest, but for Taurus people, continuity is something that actually gives you an awful lot of peace of mind. But you may challenge that in 2026, and in quite a big way. And the conversation around that could start in earnest from the full moon on Saturday the 3rd. And if you do have some discussions, it's possible that you may encounter someone who sees things very differently to you. In fact, if you're just chatting about what's going on in the world, you may encounter someone who seems to have a kind of might is right approach to their viewpoint. And that could irk with Mars in an opposition with the moon along with the sun. But if you are really enthusiastic about shaking things up, being more spontaneous and shifting things forwards, whether it's around your work, where you live, your interests, your friendships, that's something that's really going to catch fire for you by the end of this week. But just be aware there is that tender stuff at the very start of this week which could bring up an old issue, and if you can work your way through it, talk it through with someone who's tuned into you, that would be a helpful thing to do. Have a great week. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Gemini to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the best for the new year ahead. prepared. As you come into this week, your ruler Mercury, which is in the part of your chart to do with listening, but also asserting your ideas in relationship situations, is challenged by the restrictive cool energies of Saturn. A conversation that you have might not flow quite as well as you would like. It might be about a relationship matter. It could be around a business idea you have. Mercury then goes on to tangle with the dreamy, drifting and potentially illusory energies of Neptune before arriving in the practical Capricorn on the 1st, later on the 1st of January. Now that joins up with the cluster of players, Venus, Mars and the Sun, which will all be together in the 8th house of your chart through to the middle of January. Now if you're setting your intentions for the new year, very much in terms of shuffling and managing your resources more shrewdly, or if you're wanting to start a new business and you have a great entrepreneurial idea, or you're discussing joint finances or a close relationship, Mercury joining with them gives you the ability to just dive deep, to really look at the details of things that may have proved to be a bit challenging to do earlier in the week. Now Chiron goes direct on the 2nd in the part of your chart to do with friendships. If you have found that things have slowed down around your social situation since July, it's probably because you've just been refining what you want and who is going to be important to you. But because Chiron is squaring off to Jupiter at the start of this new year, and Jupiter is the planet of fortune, and it's in the part of your scope to do with everyday money, but it is in retrograde, I feel that if you are wanting to work closely with someone, one of the things that's important here with Chiron is not to have too high expectations. We've got a full moon on Saturday, and just getting the right balance between the ins and outgoings around your resources over the following 2 weeks is going to be quite a theme. But because the moon's in a direct opposition with Mars as well as the Sun, that actually can be quite a challenging and intense energy. And in a romantic dimension, if there is someone you've been drawn to over the holidays, this could bring to the fore perhaps where your values don't quite chime, or in a longer term relationship perhaps where one of you has become rather attached to a particular approach, whereas one of you, perhaps you, is wanting to evolve, because that 8th house energy that you take into this new year is very much about something really changing in a profound way in your world. And it could mean that certain parts of your old approach do need to be released, and that creates the space to bring in new energy and new approaches, which can prove to be very dynamic. But it is very important to understand with the 8th house that some of those changes can be just within us. It's where we're shedding some kind of skin or approach and creating a new possibility for renewal. So there's lots of that towards the end of this week, but if there is something you're tempted to hold on to, the 2nd house energy of the full moon, that's really more to do with because it feels comforting, but it might not help you to really evolve, that's what you can look at in the following 2 weeks. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Cancer to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a peaceful Christmas and wishing you all the best for the new year. You may start this week having to catch up on a few tasks or obligations, and it could seem to cramp your style. This is because Mercury is in a tense relationship with the practical Saturn, but also the imaginative energies of Neptune. But on the 1st, later on the 1st of January, Mercury plays catch up with the cluster of players in your sector of relationships. Mercury moves into Capricorn and gives you a great chance to sharpen up your listening skills right through to the 20th of January. But it's joining with Venus, the relator, Mars, the planet of desire, and the Sun, our innate energy. And relationships of all kinds, collaborations, cooperations, are going to be a big part of your year 2026 story, which is really exciting. But if a relationship isn't working so well, with the full moon in your zodiac sign on Saturday, if you're not feeling that someone's attuned to you in the way that you are to them, it's not a really mutually inclusive situation, I think you could think very carefully over the following 2 weeks about what you want to do. One of the reasons for that is that not only will the moon be in opposition with the sun, but also with Mars, and that can create more tension around this particular lunation. Of course, the moon's back at home in your zodiac sign, but that just makes you intuitively aware of what you need. And relationships aren't about keeping other people happy, it's about getting a good balance between what we give and get. And those relationships that do work like that for you can definitely thrive. But if there is one that does require you to be more assertive, Mars will definitely give you the energy to do that over the following 2 weeks and over the rest of the new year too. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Leo to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas. Wishing you all the best for year 2026. As you come into this week, Mercury, which has been in a part of your chart recently, which is quite fun-loving, mischievous and humorous, is reminded of some practical issues that may need a discussion, and it could be around shared finance, it may be about moving money around, it could be the cost of the festivities needs to be examined. Now Mercury will be moving on the 1st into Capricorn, joining up with Venus, the Sun and Mars, and that trio being complemented by Virgo does suggest that you're going to be thinking about practicalities quite seriously as we go into this new year. Now those practicalities could be about what you eat, drink, the amount of exercise you get, what you do in terms of your daily routines. It may be about the amount of organisation you have in your life, and it could also be about your work. And Mercury can help you to grapple with the detail of things that may ordinarily seem a little bit on the dull side. So through to the first half of January, if you do find yourself focusing more on those everyday routines, try to take that in your stride, because that's helping you to create a structure that just works that much better for you, whether it's around managing the domestic chores, childcare, a job. Is it really giving you a sense of satisfaction or not? If you feel penned in and you're not thriving in the way you want, with Chiron ending a retrograde on the 2nd and also the full moon on the 3rd, I think the inference here is if your physical vitality has been a little lower, do think about the more emotional or psychological reasons behind that. And maybe some changes around personal care, about the amount of rest you get, the amount of diversions you get in terms of time out, can all be very beneficial. So there's an opportunity for quite a big reset as you go into this new year. It might not sound very sexy, but as January goes on, the opportunity to connect to people in a really positive and enlivening way is going to be extremely strong, to be honest. So if you're just working on what's important for you to get the functionality of your world working really efficiently, then that actually can be something that gives you a real chance to shift things in a very constructive way as you meet this new year. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Virgo to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a peaceful Christmas and wishing you all the best for year 2026. You can watch your deep dive for the year ahead by clicking on the link beneath this video. As you go into this week, your ruler Mercury is being challenged by the miserly Saturn, but also the dreamy Neptune. There could be a tender point in a relationship. Maybe it's with a family member, maybe it's because people have been spending a lot of time with one another. Maybe you're feeling perhaps a bit more reflective and not in the mood to connect so much. But just know by later on the 1st of January, the 1st of the new year, Mercury moves into a brilliant location for you. It will take a few days to shrug off the potentially confusing energies of Neptune, but then you'll set fair to really move into the new year in a very dynamic way. Now you can be brilliant as a maker, whether it's crafting, whether it's through a hobby you have of any kind, or whether you're wanting to express yourself through music, writing, or even surprisingly for early in the new year, you might find yourself much more sociable through to the middle of January. And if you're single, there could also be the opportunity to have a special connection. But one of the things that the planets are encouraging you to do is to take your talents seriously. And because you can be a very conscientious zodiac sign, very focused on what you need to do for others, or maintaining the rhythm of life, the routines, which is all admirable, but you're being asked to showcase your unique talents in a very charismatic way as you come into this new year. So even if you are a bit unsure about that, just believe you can, because the full moon, which occurs on the 3rd, does suggest that you could find yourself at a little bit of a crossroads in the following 2 weeks. And if what you're doing now, whether in terms of your personal interest, your work, your social or romantic situations, are not quite working for you, it's a full moon which is asking you to think about that long-term plan, perhaps in a fresh light. But you've got everything going for you as you go into this new year, and even if your circumstances have been particularly difficult of late, in terms of work, in terms of a relationship which may have been bumping along the bottom, your personality power is enormous, and the planets are really blessing you. So even if it takes a little while to really get into the week, I feel as the week draws to a close, it's really pushing you to manifest your sheer brilliance. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Libra to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and all the best for year 2026. You can watch your deep dive for the new year under this video. Mercury the communicator is in a part of your scope to do with quick thinking as we come to the end of the year, but it is challenged by the slowing energies of Saturn on Monday. If there is something you want to crack on with, that influence probably suggests not rushing. Also, as Mercury moves forwards, preparing to move on the New Year's Day, it is also going to tangle with Neptune. So you might not find that your physical vitality or your desire to get stuff done is actually as high as you might like it to be. But on New Year's Day, as Mercury moves to join up with Venus, your ruler, Sun and Mars in the sign of Capricorn, I think your home life, your emotional situation, where you live, how you live there, but just your inner world is going to be very important as you come into this new year. But also Chiron, the so-called wounded healer, has been retracing his steps in a retrograde since July in your sector of relating. And if that is an area that has shown up some tenderness, together with these more reflective energies in your fourth house, that going forwards, but also squaring off to Jupiter right at the top of your chart, just suggests you don't try too hard. You know, even if it's around personal or a professional relationship, just be guided by how it feels. But you may find that your emotions seem much closer to the surface as this week draws to a close with the full moon. The full moon's at home in Cancer, but for you that's your sector of success, where you have Jupiter. And once Jupiter comes out of its retrograde in early March through to the end of June, that will coincide where you will be able to raise your profile. But if you don't quite feel in the mood to engage with the world at large in this early part of the year, what you can do is use the energy you've got to just feed your soul, to focus on the things that give you a sense of serenity. And if it's not possible for you to have more time off, that may be some changes to your personal interest, moving the furniture around, redecoration, perhaps for some people trying to find somewhere else to live. But that inner world for an air sign, which is very much for you, life is about communication, thinking, sharing ideas, relating to people very skillfully. But this is your opportunity to think about your inner world, what you need to create peace, security and safety. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Scorpio to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the best for year 2026. You can watch your deep dive forecast by clicking on the link beneath this video. Your word power is really going to be amplified as you go into this new year, but you could find yourself initially thinking about exploiting the sales, as many of us do. But if you do consider splashing out more impulsively, I would consider that you buy things that have some kind of practical benefit too. But on New Year's Day, Mercury the communicator does play catch up, joining your ruler Mars, the Sun and Venus in your third house. Some very important discussions I feel can play out through to the third week of January, and some of these may have a fated dimension. The full moon, which occurs on Saturday this week, also has the moon in an opposition not just with the Sun, but also Mars, your traditional ruler. You may find yourself being very passionate about your beliefs, a viewpoint you have, a travel plan, about potentially buying a new mode of transport. But you could have quite a lot of varied viewpoints coming in, and the more open-minded you can be, the better. You're someone who doesn't usually waste words. You're very thoughtful, but you may be surprised by the amount of just ideas that are pinging backwards and forwards. And if you have been building up on something that you're excited about, it can really gain traction. And by the 20th of January, you may have really started to move forwards with something. It may have really gained traction. But you may also come into contact with someone who does see things diametrically opposite. And one of the reasons for that, Scorpio, is that the full moon is in an opposition with Mars. And that can make perhaps you more singular minded, or it may mean someone you encounter is quite willful. And so one of the things that's going to be important to do at the start of this year is be open to flex, particularly listen. You know, obviously we don't have to agree with what other people say. We can have our own ideas. But if you are working collaboratively and there is a lot of different input coming in, things can be very fluid. But also I think there can be a desire just to connect more. So if you've got any ideas at all that really have been exciting you, they can come to life very early in year 2026. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Sagittarius to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the best for the new year. You can watch your deep dive Sagittarius video for 26 by clicking on the link beneath this video. Recently you've had a cluster of energy developing in the part of your chart to do with your sense of worth, your financial sector, and there is a sense of excitement around that. And they're going to be joined by Mercury, how we think, but also the planet of commerce on the 1st of January. But Mercury does start this week being affected by both Saturn and Neptune. And if you recall, just before Mars moved into Capricorn from Sagittarius mid-December, then we had the Sun on the 20th, 21st of December move into Capricorn, followed by Venus on the 24th. Just before those dates, each time you may have felt a little bit unsure and maybe a bit depleted in terms of your emotional energy. That is potentially going to be there somewhat at the start of this week, but with Chiron ending a 5-month retrograde on the 2nd and forging a square with your ruler Jupiter, if you are wanting to be more dynamic, perhaps more speculative with your resources, your thinking may start this week a little bit below par, but it is unlikely to end this week. For sure, the full moon suggests that if there are costs that have been associated with Christmas, it's a great chance to work out how you can configure those over the coming months. But just know, with Mercury joining up with that trio, there is a fabulous chance through to the 20th of January to really get on the front foot. If you've got a new idea to earn money, you want to use the resources you've got more skillfully, you want to perhaps learn more about home cooking and being a bit thriftier in some ways, because creating a sense of worth is what the start of this new year is about. And the more you set your intentions in that way, the more you can attract extra income too. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your Life Roadmap Report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Capricorn to your in-depth weekly forecast for week beginning the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the best for year 2026. If you've yet to watch your Capricorn forecast for the year ahead, you can click on the link beneath this video to watch it. As you enter into this new week, Mercury, the planet of thinking, is still located in a deep part of your chart, but also one that could have seen you surprisingly reflective, but it's also in a testing right angle to Saturn, your ruler. You might find that something someone said over the Christmas period is going around your mind. You may be analysing it carefully. You may ask yourself the question, are you overthinking? But perhaps you have been feeling more sensitive, and Mercury then goes on to square off to Neptune. So the chances are there may be or there can be a sense of not being quite sure about some people's intentions or even sincerity. But by the 1st of January, Mercury joins your sign. Now each year as we come into the new year, the Sun is always in Capricorn, but you get a unique lineup this year because it's not just Mercury later on in the day, it's also Venus the relator, but also the planet of money, and Mars the planet of passion along with the Sun. So that gives you a glorious and quite unique stellar lineup. The first house can be about our identity, but it also can be about our physical vitality. But also it can be about where we use our energy to ignite something new and fresh. But then again, we can use that sense of passion and excitement and thrust to inject energy into something that's been ongoing. And that's really where I see it for you. If you are wanting to step into something new and perhaps a little more daring at the start of this year, these planetary influences will really help you. But if you just want to tune up something that's been ongoing, you can do so very skillfully. But another thing that might call out to you in the early part of this new year is perhaps changing your personal presentation in some way. So if you are hitting the sales, it may be that you'll want to get some new gear. Even if you see yourself as being very stylish, just a few tweaks here and there can just give your sense of individuality greater animation, and all of this can give you a much stronger sense of attractiveness. And sometimes in life we have to start something off, or we need to reboot it, and I think it can be either of those strands. There is of course a full moon on Saturday. If you're being very single-minded about something and someone close to you doesn't quite get what you're trying to do, it is going to be important to try to explain it carefully to them so they can buy in. But then again, in a relationship context, if someone isn't really connecting to you in the way you really want, that could see you think very carefully, because don't be surprised if by the middle of January particularly more than one admirer makes their interest in you known. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your Life Roadmap Report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Aquarius to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and all the best for year 2026. If you've yet to watch your deep dive forecast, please see the link beneath this video. Thinking long term is very much an Aquarius tendency because you're often ahead of the curve. You can anticipate things, whether it's around music, style, fashion, all sorts of trends. But if you are imagining where you want to head this year, you may find yourself through this week as it goes on actually taking a little bit of a pause, which sounds a strange thing to do at the start of a new year. But the start of your new year comes this year on the 20th of January when the sun returns to your sign. So as the sun is joined by Mercury, along with Mercury joining with Venus and Mars, that 12th house part of your chart really is amplified from the middle of this week. But if you do find yourself having a conversation about a business matter, your long-term financial planning, it could seem a little stuck. It's not quite happening. And the more you try to force the pace, frankly, Aquarius, the less it might work for you. So understand that each year the sun is always in a very reflective area, but this year is so unique because the sun is joined by the thinker of Mercury, and obviously the planet of discussion, but also the relator and the money planet Venus, and the planet of action and desire Mars. So they're all in house 12. And really what the planets are giving you the opportunity to do, me too, is do a bit more preparation. And that preparation can take place quietly, reflectively. It can take the form of market research, soul searching, perhaps even reflecting on the past, perhaps feeling very nostalgic. There is a sense of just really gathering your thoughts before a major take-off event, and that occurs on the 17th of January when Venus is the advanced arrival in the sign of Aquarius, going to be joining up straight away with Pluto, followed by the Sun and Mercury on the 20th, and then Mars on the 23rd. So you may feel initially that things seem a little elusive, or you could feel lower in vitality, and that could be emphasized even more by the full moon of Saturday. If you're not really enjoying where you work, you don't have a connection with people, you don't feel part of it, that too can be something that comes up with that full moon. But also it's an opportunity to understand that however much we want to use our vitality to achieve things, we need to make sure that our hearts are in it. And if there's anything you're involved in at the present time where your heart just isn't in it, whether it's an interest, a friendship, a relationship, or a job, that is going to be something you need to grapple with in these first few weeks of the new year. But then the latter part of January is the most dramatic skyscape for many a year for Aquarius people. So imagine you're like a catapult that's being pulled back. There may be a sense of tension. It may feel a little bit fraught, but just know that when that catapult, giant catapult, is released on the 20th of January, you're going to fire forwards at the most tremendous of paces and also in the most charismatic of ways. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more. Welcome Pisces to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 29th of December. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and wishing you all the best for year 2026. If you've yet to watch your Pisces deep dive forecast for the year ahead, please see the link beneath this video. As we start this new year, there could be a professional matter which you're unsure about. If you're not enjoying it where you're working, you may find yourself wanting to think very seriously about your long-term strategy. And that's going to take on greater shape from the 1st of January as Mercury, the thinker, but also the planet which is very much to do with communication moves into the part of your chart that is very much about your higher purpose. Because whatever we do, and however successful we are, or even if we're not successful, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's feeding us in a way which gives us joy. And I think one of the things you're looking for early in this new year is greater connection to others. It may be through your interests. It could be through playing group sports. It may be through joining a hobby group, a chess club. It may be a book club. Whatever it is, if you can share a passion but also connect to others, that can be very dynamic and positive for you. But it's not just going to be through the end of this week, Pisces, that this energy plays out. It's going to be for the whole of year 2026. So if you're in a job and it's not very enjoyable, or you're in a group of people that you don't feel really part of it, or you're in a relationship which you're not sure about, there's going to be a lot of desire through to the 20th of January to really talk about and take soundings and just get a sense of what you might change and alter. Because the 11th house is very much about where we want to enjoy ourselves. It can be about our network, it can be about those friendships, but it's definitely about the next step up for material progress. So, whether that comes in terms of the pay package we have, the house or home we live in, the car we drive, all this kind of stuff, a lot of modern life has been very aspirational around those material assets. But I think you want to go beyond that. And if there's something you've set your heart on for a long time, I feel you can bring it to pass in year 2026. But it's going to come from the spirit of collaboration and cooperation, as well as your individual talents. You don't need to stop being you, quite the reverse. You need to be you with the people who get you, but then find ways to work together in simpatico, and that is what's going to show up by the end of this week, because the full moon suggests that there are some people around you who don't get that so much, that you may want to change things, that you may want a spark in different ways. Then those relationships of all kinds could reach a little bit of a crossroads moment. If you've yet to order your year 2026 personal astrology forecast, totally unique to you, you can do so now, and at the checkout please apply Astro 26. You'll also get your life roadmap report, a very important document to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives so far, and my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian written forecast. Please see the link below for more.